today, in honor of National Black HIV and AIDS Awareness Day that just passed on February 7th, and the month of love, we will be discussing self love and self care and healing in the Black and Brown communities and how it relates to healthy relationships, healthy love, or a lack thereof, and our ability to take control of our sexual health and practice safe sex. So, first, I want to introduce my team. We are this year's CDC, Let's Stop HIV and AIDS Together ambassadors, cohort six, team cohort six. um, so I'll start with the person that's right to my right, Rim. I'll let you introduce yourself and tell them a little bit about, what you do, the work that you do.
Well, hello everyone. I'm excited to be here among my colleagues. Hey, the 2022 HIV ambassadors. I am from Jackson, Mississippi. And the work that I do at this moment, I'm a community health worker for Care for Me Services, and I also have my own organization called Beloved Inc. Mississippi for women and girls with HIV. And so, yeah, that's me, and I'm gonna pass it on.
Let's go with Faith next.
Hi, everybody, especially for our Black and Brown communities. And when it comes to HIV prevention, that's something I've been doing since about 2014 when I was in my undergrad years at Howard. HU, So I've been doing
Yeah.
this for a really long time, and I'm really happy to be here with my cohort. One of the biggest things is that we're here to do is, like it says, let's stop HIV, and we are all hoping that we can see an end to this, epidemic in our lifetimes. So,
Yeah.
we're here to just be a part of that. So thanks for having me.
For sure. And we got Bree up next.
Hi guys. So again, I am Bree. I am from Paterson, New Jersey, and I am a prevention specialist at Capco Resource. I do all prevention, harm reduction with BLM Patterson. I'm an organizer for Black Lives Matter Patterson, and so we do on that end mostly harm reduction and mutual aid. Um, so yeah, and now we go to Harveen.
Hi, everybody. I'm Harveen. I'm from Houston, Texas. I am a Rice University undergraduate pre-med student, and I also work in marketing and communications for the Houston AIDS Education and Training Center, where I get to make media that results in more HIV prevention awareness and talking about HIV stigma and HIV treatment.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys for being here. I'll introduce myself. Last but not least, my name's Portia, and I am a global advocacy administrative coordinator for AIDS Healthcare Foundation. I'm also, I guess, an advocate. I call myself a HIV influencer. And I just recently started my own business, my brand called Positive Vibes Only. And I kind of like provide products, and eventually I'll get to providing services as well that kind of facilitate and aid individuals on their self-love, self-care, healing journey, mentally, physically, and spiritually. Um, and so, yeah, today our event is titled Black Love. Uh, Today is actually National Black Love Day. And so, we just, I, decided to come in and talk about, how we can take control of our sexual health and different barriers, I believe, that prevents us from being able to do that. So let's get into the first topic. And the question is, and I'll pose it to each one of you guys. Uh, what does a healthy craving to be loved will put you in places that you don't belong? And for me, in many aspects, I think toxic cycles are passed down and repeated from generation to generation, especially in the Black and Brown communities. where we've been exposed to so much generational trauma, you know. And I think family ties, romantic relationships are a lot of the times one of our biggest trauma bonds, and unhealthy relationships and love is one of the hardest cycles to break. I think like we don't know what a healthy love is because we haven't experienced a healthy love. So um, I guess I'll start with Rim. Maybe what how would you answer that question? What does a healthy relationship or healthy love look like to you?
Well, for me, Portia, healthy relationships, for me, it all starts with communication. you know, Being able to communicate with each other, having an understanding, and a respect and an honor towards each other. That's how I see having a healthy relationship. Um, because sometimes when we are in relationship, we just do not know how to communicate. We don't know how to communicate with each other. Also to have some type of empathy and compassion and unconditional love towards each other, where it's not always based on conditions. Because in toxic relationship, it's always based on condition. Where if you don't do this for
Mhm.
me, I'm not gonna do that for you.
Mhm.
You know, and if you treat me like this, I'm gonna treat you like that. So it's a tit for tat thing. So for me, having a healthy relationship, you're gonna have to respect and have some type of love towards each other.
I what you both of those things that you shared, I'm like, oh shoot, like I made the comment I might be a little toxic because sometimes I think I've
Are
been
we all?
tit for tat.
Okay. I done been toxic myself.
But I'm hearing that communication piece that you talked about. I think, like I said in the prelude, like especially in the Black and Brown communications, I think how we were raised. We weren't given the proper tools to know how to communicate. I know in my family, you can't speak when grown folks are speaking.
Mhm.
You can't say how you feel as a child. You know what I'm saying? Or how you feel don't matter. Like we, uh, mental health therapy, all that stuff. Communication skills and tools are given when you go through therapy. But therapy is something that is looked at, frowned upon, I guess, in the Black and Brown community. Or I can't speak for the Brown community, but the Black community, you know, we're that strong Black woman syndrome. So
Yeah.
I like those two things that you mentioned. Um, let's see. Uh, I, Faith, we can go to you next.
Well, it's interesting what you just said, Portia, because I was thinking as Rimsky was talking, I was like, relationships can be healthy. Most of the time you're thinking about your partner, somebody you're dating, right? But
Mhm.
you start having relationships with your parents, with your caregivers as
Mhm.
a young child,
Yeah.
healthy your relationship with when we have children and stuff like that. But
Mhm.
our parents didn't necessarily know how to communicate with us, how to accept us for who we are in the way that we needed to be accepted. Because I think for me, healthy relationship looks like you're able to be who you are, and I think that you're able to express yourself in the way that you want to. And it has to be a positive, of course, for it to be healthy to express yourself,
Yeah.
but also it's just kind of like the person that you're with, whether it's like your mom or your partner, they understand you and they let you be you. That's kind of really where it starts at for me. I think it's kind of unhealthy when you having to hide yourself, when you're having
Mhm.
to constantly not say how you feel. You're holding stuff in. You have your feelings bottled up at all times. You can't say what you want, say what you need. Because like if you don't have a healthy relationship where you can say what you want, say what you need, you can't even say what you want or need sexually.
Yeah.
When
Mhm.
we get to
Exactly.
that. So I think that is definitely
Exactly.
like a bottom layer thing for me. It's definitely about like being able to be yourself and not have to hide certain parts. Of course, certain parts that might not be for everybody. Like my dad doesn't need to know what I do when I go to the club in DC.
Yeah.
Right.
But I save that for my homegirls. But I can still be who I am and not have to be afraid
Mm,
of that with
that
anybody.
Yeah.
was that was so deep, Faith. Like I think in so what you have touched on is multi-layered in the
Yeah.
sense that So I'm pulling out homophobia from
Mhm.
that. That's something a lot of the black culture. We are church going Christian
Yeah.
raised people. Like our faith is strong, right? And so religion has kind of like historically, I think that churches and stuff are trying to do better now.
Mhm.
But historically, religion has uh, you know, pushed traditionalism. Male and female relationships,
Yeah.
being gay or lesbian or of the LGBT community is frowned upon, right? Also, it's very the whole gender role thing, like it's very patriarchal and male female based, like um so people who have like different gender identities, like you said, may not be accepted or
Mhm.
be able to be fully heard or seen, especially as children. And then in relationships, this is the second part of what I'm taking out of um what you're saying, regardless to like being lesbian, gay, straight, whatever, a lot of the times in our relationships, because we're trying to be who our partner wants us to be, like we
Yeah.
are hiding parts of ourselves or like, um, you know, conforming to what they want, even though it might not be, who we really are. I know in past relationships, I felt more comfortable expressing myself to my friends sometimes, like being who I fully am or saying how I truly felt, like, you know, to my friends than to my partner. Like, because you can't tell your partner, like, their sex is whack or you are interested in somebody else or you don't feel the
It's
same way
frowned
about
upon,
them.
and I don't know why it's frowned upon
It is
because it
frowned
should
upon. I
be.
can't say
And
you
even
can't do
if
something
it's
'cause you can't.
temporary,
It's frowned
you can't say that kind of stuff because you don't want to hurt their feelings. So
Yeah.
everything you just said was deep, deep,
Mhm.
deep. What about you, Bree? What does a healthy relationship, healthy love look like to you?
For me, it would be more understanding, and yes, the communication part definitely has to be explored and worked on because I'm big on communicating.
Yeah.
I don't know how to bottle things up. Um, and that's not a good thing. Sometimes I speak just to get my point across and I'm not listening. So that's something I'm also working on myself because it's easy for us to point out at everyone else's toxicity, but we got to take a step back and see what part we're playing and how we've been raised with with whatever familial relationships we have, and if those are toxic, that's the only way we know how to communicate and we think that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like the arguing for me, someone telling me no and like arguing with me, that just made me feel like they love me
Yeah.
because that's what I got from my mom. That's what I got
Yeah.
from my dad. That's what I got from my grandpa. Like the people that loved me would always tell me no, would always yell at me, would put me, but in a loving way for them because they were raised in trauma. They were raised
Yeah.
with toxicity. So they can only give what they have and what they know to the best of their ability. Um, I am a little bit traditional, but also I'm not. Like I consider myself to be Pentecostal, but most Pentecostal people out there would be like, "No, you're not." Um, and that's we are changing all the toxicity in the churches and what we were raised in because I could believe and follow some of it, but know that some of that is very toxic. Is not it's not godly and it's not what we're trying to the message that we're getting across. So like for me, I personally I believe in gender roles for me in my relationship.
Right.
So I would have to be with someone who is, I don't want to say a man because what is a man, but in my eyes, what a man needs to be for me.
Yeah.
Because what I need from a partner may not meet what is not necessarily what everyone else needs, but
Right.
that's not wrong.
Yeah.
No.
It's just what works for me. And I think that's something that in a relationship, we have to learn to communicate that just because something doesn't work for you doesn't necessarily mean it's wrong. And the whole telling your partner they're bad at sex. I was in a whole relationship for 2 years, and I just because I could not, my friends were tired of hearing me complain.
Yeah.
So it's frowned upon, but we got to do it. We got to learn how to speak up. Like, I don't like this. This is not going anywhere.
Yeah. So you definitely like highlighted a lot of the things that was already said. One of the things that I took out that's kind of a little bit different from what Faith and Miss Rim was saying is compatibility and
Mm-hmm.
expressing what you want, what you desire, what works for you, and finding someone, being with someone who um, you know has those same values and those same desires and wants and needs, and you guys aren't like on two different wavelengths. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mm-hmm.
oh yeah, I think that definitely constitutes to a healthy love, healthy relationship. Um, Harveen, what about you? What do you?
Yeah, I definitely agree with a lot of the points made, especially about the open communication and about how learning about these types of relationships often comes from like as you're growing, like with your family and with your friends. And I do believe, as recently mentioned, that honesty is a really, really integral part of having a healthy relationship because it's just in the long run, it won't work out if you're not honest with yourself, if you're not honest with whoever you're with. I also believe that another thing to add is just being responsible. And that's just responsible for how you feel, responsible for how whoever you're with feels, just acknowledging that and giving each other that mutual respect is also
Yeah.
extremely important to
Mm-hmm.
have any type of healthy relationship, whether it's a friendly one, whether it's a romantic one, whether it's with your family. I feel like those are some of the traits that I would think constitute a healthy relationship as well. And they're extremely important.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God, you guys! So all of your answers are really, really good. Um, if I'm gonna add in my 2 cents, so I'm gonna bring in I guess the pleasure piece, because
Let's
like
talk about it, sis.
a
Let me
romantic
let me put you for that one.
a romantic relationship, like aside from having a platonic relationship, what makes a difference is the romantic or sexual part of it, right? Like, and so for me, being that I grew up HIV positive, and I did mention therapy, right? I just got into therapy like last year, and what I've been really learning through the process is that I have a lot of um, shame around sex, but it's because I grew up positive, and so the messaging that I received around um, sex and it's tied to relationships and love
Yeah.
is that you know uh, I didn't know if I would be able to have like a normal kind of relationship. I think the very first relationship I had was with a, a lady now, but a girl that I disclosed my status to in high school, and you know, the fact that she accepted me for me, and vice versa, like we shared secrets with each other, um, like was everything to me. And then also, at that time, I was very young, so I didn't know that U equals U wasn't a thing.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what we could and could not do. So, like, since the beginning, I've had to like move in a way where I felt like I couldn't be sexually free. I don't know if that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense. Like, and that, you know, that can mentally like play a take a it has effects on your self-esteem. I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
like, so I've always felt like, I don't know, in some of the relationships I was in, people were less afraid than in others. And so like that was a big thing of for me, I'm not even gonna lie, I was a lot more toxic in my younger 20s of why I would
As a
like
so as
seek
a
such
defense
stuff
mechanism.
out is because I
Hmm.
wasn't being like sexually the intimacy wasn't there, like, you know what I'm saying? So I think being able to be sexually free with your partner, and to be open and honest about like how you feel intimately and sexually, like is is what constitutes a healthy relationship, healthy love. This kind of probably touches on some of the stuff y'all said. I think outside of me being positive in my experience, a lot of relationships go through this where they can't be honest with each other about what they really like sexually, you know,
Hmm.
like, and that's why people be cheating, you know, so and stepping out. So I just wanted to bring that piece in. Yeah. If you guys want to respond, go ahead, or we can move to the next topic.
Yeah, I appreciate what you said. I mean, I think that a lot of people don't think about it like that, especially now where we're at a place where we can speak about HIV in such a more positive lens,
Yeah.
where we're talking about, how long we can live with HIV and, all of the things that we have to prevent it. But a lot of the time, thinking about, and it's kind of like we're trying to move away from thinking about how hard it was in the past. But
Yeah.
there's people that are still struggling with their status to this day, no matter how much stigma we have eliminated, no matter how much, shame we've tried to eliminate. So I think that perspective is great to still have because people forget about that. I think it's good that we're moving forward, but you always have to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And I want to thank you for sharing that also. I think like Faith said, we are as we move on away from the stigma, we also have to honor those feelings for those who are dealing with that and who do have the shame and are in toxic relationships and stay there because they feel like they can't get any better,
Yeah.
Right.
and that I have so many clients sometimes that I see and I'm like, but you have HIV. I don't understand what the issue is,
Yeah.
but it's that internalized stigma
Yeah.
that they
Yeah.
have. And it's like, well, because no, I feel like I'm the only one that feels that way. So it's, I think we walk a very thin line where it's okay, we don't want to talk about all the negative, but in that, when we do that, we're not allowing people the space to express themselves and to
Yeah.
heal from whatever trauma they're going through, like a new diagnosis or someone who had it as contracted it at a young age. um, we have to honor those feelings and also give them the space and create a safe space to let that out, and now we move on from the stigma. But it's not just like we're not going to talk about it, we're not, it's not a negative thing. We have to honor those feelings,
Right.
I think.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this conversation is so good, guys. Okay, so let's go on to the next question, which is what does self care or self love mean to you guys? Um, I, whoever wants to go first, go ahead.
Honestly, especially these days, all I can say is that it just looks like relaxing and not talking to nobody for the most part. Um, I I'm so
That's
scared.
so messed up, but it's so true.
I'm so scared. Like I love to talk. If you ever just like my friends will FaceTime me and we can talk for like an hour and a half. Like I'm very talkative. I love to interact, but that piece within me of like we work so hard. We do so much. We have so many social interactions these days between social media, all of us, our job that we have, our main job that we have this ambassador thing. We're on social media all day, go to work,
Mhm.
come home, do an Instagram live, Facebook live. So I think that self-care, I mean, like you want to get a massage every now and then, get a drink every now and then, but really it's just like I just want to lay sometimes in my silence. Sometimes I can't
Yeah.
even get this stuff off my mind, so I just want I like to have my mind blank almost. A lot of times I watch a lot of TV because then I can just kind of focus on their lives. I take my TV seriously. So I'm like, I'm back watching Desperate Housewives right now. So all of their drama, I'm just like, oh, girl, you going through that. I'm not thinking about nothing I'm going through. I'm gonna really hone in on that. So definitely, like, that's where I'm at these days. I just think that we all are working so hard, and we thought that
Yeah.
this pandemic we was gonna, like, we did start off slow, but once like the jobs caught on, they like, let's get a Zoom account, and they like, we doing everything
Oh,
now.
Yeah.
I was exact.
Everybody called on. It was like triple time. Like, we doing so much more now because we don't have to worry about booking a room. And so I'm not gonna get on my soapbox about that, but I will say that it's definitely about like me time and whatever I can do to take my mind off of all the just stuff that goes on in the world. Like, that's where I'm at these days.
Right.
I'm like you, Faith. Girl, I'll come home and I will lay out in this bed and just close my eyes for a second. Just, when I enter to the house, I put down these bags. I mean, I don't want to do nothing but just lay here for a moment. If it ain't up for 5 minutes, just lay there for a moment and catch a breath. Just breathe. Take some breathing moments. Sometimes breathing moments work real good. I'm learning
Mm-hmm.
that today. As I stop and get more into the breathing, just breathing that life and just excelling. And so, with self-care, it is something that is so important. In this field, working with HIV, being an advocate, it's a lot of work. And people told me before I got into this work, I'm just gonna tell you, you need to take out some self-care,
Mm-hmm.
because it can be you can burn out with this. You can get tired some days.
Mm-hmm.
I had a friend that told me, baby, I took a whole 6 months. And I'm
We
like,
need it
but it's
sometimes.
necessary, to
Mm-hmm.
break away from advocacy work around HIV, to break away for a minute, and just take a break and get yourself back to a place where you can refresh and be revived. So for me, I have to have that revive. I have to, if it ain't nothing but getting a good glass of wine or listen to me some good Anthony Hamilton,
That he's my favorite.
Baby, I told them last night I was up here hugging myself and dancing with myself last night, honey. Listen to me some Anthony Hamilton as if he was singing to me in my room.
That's funny.
But you have to have that, you have to have that self love for yourself, because if you don't love yourself, how is somebody else gonna love you? If you don't have that respect for yourself. And I had to learn that because I was so geared to trying to make everybody else happy that I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't thinking about my happiness. And
Mm-hmm.
that's how I end up acquiring HIV, because I was in this so-called loving relationship, wanting to just have me a man in my life and just have somebody I can lay next to, and you know and and feel good about myself. I didn't know how to love myself, so I got caught up in relationships with men that basically couldn't love me the way that I needed to be loved.
Right.
But I found out that love started with me,
Mm-hmm.
loving myself, so that I not, get caught up in those type of relationships.
Right.
And
Right.
so, when I got into the relationship with this guy, we end up kicking it off, going on about a year. But I had never been told, he never had told me that he was HIV positive. And you know I was just going on, but I had to get to the root issue of how I end up in that place with a
Mm-hmm.
guy. But I realized that because you weren't loving yourself enough, you was always giving yourself away so easily, because you was looking for love that was already there, and loving yourself. So self-love is so important. It's so important that we can have that confidence and be able to live and not have to be taken advantage of.
Mm-hmm.
Man, Rim.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much
much
for
for sharing
sharing
that.
that. I was in this discussion the other day where they kept talking about the journey to finding your first love. And your
Yeah.
first love is you. Like,
Hmm.
your first love is you.
And it takes
Um,
a while for us to understand that.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. I'm gonna just read this, quote that I was gonna prelude this question with, but it's the perfect time right now. And it says, no one's gonna come along and love you right or save you if you haven't figured out how to do it for yourself.
Yeah.
Expecting someone else to swoop in and do it for you or fix everything is like selfish and narcissistic. Love is
Yeah.
not a task or a skill, it is a way of being that you must embody in order to embrace. And the only way you do that is through inner work and inner healing. Um, Healing is a never ending path. There are levels, but at your lowest, if you don't love yourself, a romantic relationship isn't the answer. If you
Yeah.
haven't mastered the art of self love, then there's no love to find. And, and, and it says, if you don't have love to share, you won't have love to give because high frequency love is
Mhm.
requited. It's given equally. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying?
Yeah.
And so, like, man, thank you so much for sharing that. I think uh, that self esteem piece that you touched on was kind of what I was mentioning when I was talking about shame. I got a lot of trauma or around shame. I know growing up I was so constantly like worried about, I think a lot of us living with HIV, I was so constantly worried about like, dang, n- no one's going to want to be with me
Mhm.
because I
Yeah.
have HIV, or it's going to be different, the sex ain't going to be the same, the relationships ain't going to be the same. And I was so worried about my status and not transmitting what I have to somebody else, but not thinking about myself.
Yeah.
Like, and oh, other people out there are living with stuff too, and I need to protect myself, not just like the other way around, like, and I think a lot of the times, us ladies living with HIV or people in general, I think this is a universal thing.
Yeah.
We um, we don't uh, value or love ourselves, so we're accepting of things we don't deserve, less than what we deserve. We don't know our worth, you know,
Mhm.
and because we want to be in love or in a relationship, or that connection so bad that we dishonor ourselves in ways, you know what I'm saying, like,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
maybe
Yeah,
like,
100%.
yeah.
Yeah.
um
And with you saying that, Portia, I was thinking about my oldest son. Um, I mean, he just out the blue just came in the room and he was like, Mom, you got to stop feeling like you don't deserve love. When he
Mm.
said that, it was like, boom, it just hit me hard. Like, oh my goodness, this is the problem. He was like, Mom, you deserve to be loved. And it's not your
right,
fault
yeah,
that you
right.
got HIV. It's not your fault. And I'm like, how is it that my child can discern that about me that I didn't even
But we
see?
do that at work. We do
Yeah,
that with our clients. We are good at, like I said,
Mhm.
pointing out in everyone else, but we don't see it.
yeah,
We can't recognize it when we're in it. You can't recognize the mess you're in,
yeah,
right? It's easy for other people. So I mean, your son just,
Not
thank
only do
God you
you
got him
deserve,
there.
Yeah.
not only do you
yeah,
deserve to be loved, you deserve to be loved correctly, and
yeah, yeah,
not cheated on, not, whatever, like,
Mhm.
if that's not, if you don't have an open relationship and you want a monogamous relationship, you don't have to accept, you know,
yeah.
anything less.
That's
So,
right. That's
yeah.
right.
What about you, Bree?
Self care. That's the still
Self
what we're on, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so
self
for
love.
me,
Sorry.
we've been going out of time, right? For me, it Sundays I put my phone on do not disturb, and I have about 5 people that can like come through because it's too much. It's too much, and I can't pour out when I know I'm not my best because I feel I can't hide my emotions very well. Like I will say it. It will show through the way I speak, how my face, everything. So, and I don't deal with anything on a Sunday. I need one day to just sit here and watch Friends and Insecure for the thousandth time
Right.
because You know what's funny that you said that, Faith? Because I went on a date with this guy one time, and we were talking, and I don't know if he expected me to talk about like 401ks and like investments. He called me mindless. He called me mindless and shallow because I said I was excited that it was during quarantine. I was excited about the Brandy and Monica versus,
The
and
verses.
he just said it was like that's all you think about. And in my mind, I'm like, you don't know what I do for a living. Like, that's all
Right.
I need to think about right now. I don't know what so that's what self-care looks like to me. I pour into myself on Sundays because I know that Monday I begin working with other people and I need to be my best for them. For a long time, I was just pushing myself to the limit. And so I felt like at some point I wasn't even able to help anybody. I couldn't. So that's what it looks like for me. Harveen, you?
Yeah,
What
I
it look
was
like
just
for you?
thinking. I was just thinking while you said that you should call your Sunday Rejuvenation Sunday because that's the day where you kind of collect all your thoughts and have time to relax. But I think for me, self-care, self-love, kind of circling back to what Faith said earlier, just taking that time for yourself and doing things that you like without any pressure or without any duty to do so is very, very impactful because especially I guess I can speak from my age experience with college and with work and especially when it's geared towards, working for HIV. It's very not only physically tolling but also mentally tolling at times, the things that we do. And so internally in me, I feel like I'm the kind of person that I bottle up my feelings because I don't want to be a burden onto other people, but it's also very evident on my face when something's wrong. So that's the one thing I can't control. But I've learned that I've always had this issue where if I feel like I'm not doing something like busy work, I feel like I'm just wasting my time.
Oh, girl,
And I feel
no.
like I'm not being productive. But I recently found out, and people have told me that it's equally productive when you're doing things for yourself. Because even if you're not working on a computer, even if you're not working with clients, for example, or if you're not doing your work, doing things that make you genuinely happy is productive for your well-being, and it'll help you make yourself feel better, and in turn it'll help you have better interactions and a better positive mindset whenever you do all of that busy work. So I do feel like it's very important to take time out, like a Sunday for example, or to spend a few hours in a day doing things that you love just with no strings attached. And that just makes when you try to do something productive all the more like, oh, I want to focus now, and like I have that motivation and I've like gotten my energy back. And it's very, very important to like recognize when you need those moments, because things can go by in your job and a lot of it's like very tiring and straining at times. So it's important to recognize when you need that break, whether it's like a day or like a small vacation or even just a couple hours watching a TV show. It's all worth it at the end. So I feel like that's very important.
Yeah.
Righteous. You guys all mentioned the word about helping people, and I'm I'm always tying in the things I'm learning into therapy. Like all of that stuff is people pleasing behavior. Like I'm an extreme people pleaser. But my mom was that way. I seen that as women, we're nurturers, we're caregivers, we're natural nurturers and caregivers and people pleasers, and we're always taking care of everybody else. You know what I'm saying? And uh, I, I I've gotten super into this whole self care thing, like with my business and everything. And so for me, I was telling Bree, before we started the whole discussion, how I was experiencing health issues last year. I think um, everything, all the pressure from, my work and just everything that I have on my plate, I think took a toll on me, like my fibroid, I got uterine fibroids. I'm getting old too, y'all. So. I got
No,
uterine
you not.
fibroids and they flared up, but I'm my immune system is already compromised. So the things that I was experiencing was like, what the heck is going on? Like, but so having gone through like developing blood clots, um, and then I told y'all I have a lot of trauma that I'm working through. I have anxiety. Y'all would be surprised how breathing techniques,
Mm-hmm.
um, breathing, doing 4 or 5 deep breaths in and letting them out, how it resets your body and how it, especially if you have blood circulation issues or if you struggle with anxiety, breathe.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've gotten
Right. It's
really,
this. Yeah.
oh, sorry. I've gotten really into because like I said, well, in my previous position I was a linkage to care coordinator, and in that role you kind of play like a therapist to everybody else's problem, a mama, all that, and so I'm constantly dealing with everybody else's emotions and helping everybody else as and in my personal life, that, like you guys all mentioned, we forget to take time out for ourselves. And I don't think we need to do it just once a week on Sunday. I know Self Care Sunday is popping. We need to take time out for ourselves every day,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
because we can't be everything for everybody if, our cups are empty. So, man, everything that you guys saying is really important. I'm I'm into all of that stuff. Like, I we take showers all the time, like my thing is I like taking baths when I get the chance to and I'm not running, like running like crazy, but spiritual baths where I'm like, got my wine, got my music on, meditating, literally resting like you guys are saying and taking time out for myself and not nobody mess with me while I'm doing my spiritual bath, you know what I'm saying? Putting on the music I like, just escaping. And that's what meditation is all about. Escaping from the noise, from the worrying, from the hustle and bustle, and sitting with yourself and, journaling. If you guys like doing that, I like journaling. But yeah, yes. um, okay. So I wanted to give you some time, Harvey, to talk about prevention because we
Mhm.
talked about what a healthy love looks like. Honesty was one of them things that kept getting brought up, and I believe in a lot of the relationships we're in, like people aren't being completely honest. A lot of cheating does happen. So can you give us discuss the your research that you did on Black women, Black and Brown women, and prevention, and let the people know how they can protect themselves.
Yeah, definitely. So I feel like talking about HIV prevention has to start from knowing like how, I guess, spread HIV is to start off with, because I feel like a lot of people, they know what it is, but they don't understand how common it may be or what the statistics kind of look like in today's day and age. And so this is kind of specifically geared towards Black and Brown communities and their
Mm-hmm.
statistics. But a lot of the disparities in terms of HIV prevention and HIV getting access to treatment are driven by stigma and barriers to health. And a lot of that are conversations you should have in a relationship, ideally, is if this were to happen to me, what do I do? What can you do as support? Who are people I can talk to? I feel like it's very important to bring those things to light. So, a couple of just statistics about these communities and HIV. So, these are also like kind of from CDC information, but in 2019, new out of all the new HIV infections, which is a little bit over 34,000, 41% of them estimated were among Black and Brown communities. So that is the majority. And in the same year, only 8% of individuals in these communities who had HIV and could benefit from PrEP, which is pre exposure prophylaxis, which is a pill that you can use to prevent HIV, only 8% of these people were prescribed that, compared to roughly 23% who would actually benefit from it. So that brings to a conversation about how many people know about PrEP and how many people are having those types of conversations in their relationships. Because if you do get HIV, or if you are thinking that it may happen, you may not even think about PrEP if you don't have that conversation with someone like your partner or someone you have a relationship with. Because again, it all boils down to that stigma. So I feel like it's very important in this day and age to have these talks, be open to whoever you're with, and talk about what you can do to prevent or what you can do to treat. And these communities are hit hardest by HIV compared to other communities. So this is specifically for Black and Brown women. So women in these communities are hit hardest by HIV, approximately 15 times as high as women in white communities, for example, and 5 times as high as women in Latino communities. So this comparison is also important to note, because it's equally important for all these women to know about PrEP, but because Black and Brown communities are hit extremely hard, and the numbers do agree with it, talking about that is the first step to go, because a lot of women won't feel encouraged to go even research about PrEP at the very least, or talk to their healthcare provider about it if they don't feel like they have that support from their relationship to start off with. So I feel like it's important to have that knowledge of your status and having these open conversations. Again, that all boils down to the open communication part of a healthy relationship, as Rimsky mentioned earlier. So I feel like that's very, very important to keep in mind. And these statistics you can find anywhere, but a lot of people just don't search for them simply because they don't feel internally encouraged to do so, because that just is like you admitting to yourself that, hey, this might be something that I might have to consider for my life. And once you admit it to yourself and admit it to the people that you love and you care about, that's when you can start digging more deep into prevention or treatment. And that's when the stigma doesn't hinder you from getting the treatment and the care that you need, which I feel like is extremely important.
Hey, oh my God, this was so good, you guys. Like, I'm super like, I don't know, like words can't ever express how I feel right now. This is a dope conversation. We're coming up on, I don't even know how long we've spent talking right now.
48 minutes.
Almost an hour.
But another thing with about what Harveen said, also we have to, not only if we don't have these conversations with our partners, but if I'm with a guy and we kind of had to censor ourselves, because then you bring up so you saying I'm gay? Because that's what our communities correlate this with, unfortunately. Because even when we look at the PrEP flyers and the little ads, it's usually to men.
It's all geared towards men who have
It's
sex with
all
men.
geared towards men who have sex with men. So I think that's something we need to have that representation where it's a male and a female in a relationship having that, because when we have those conversations, I have a lot of my clients that, that we have them on PrEP, some women, and they're like, well, I don't even want to tell my boyfriend because, or my husband or my whatever, because they think I'm calling them gay.
Right.
Especially when these men are coming home from prison, because that's another thing we got to tackle. Our communities are hit hardest because while we're the minority, we're the majority when we're incarcerated.
Yeah.
And so they have these relationships and then come home and they don't want to, or they don't consider themselves, because you don't have to be gay to enjoy sex with another man.
Right.
So they come home to their wives, their girlfriends, whoever, not telling them what they've been doing. And so when we talk about having these conversations, first we have to let the people know that maybe you don't know that these things are available, because I didn't know that PrEP was available. I don't think I would know unless I started working in this field, because this information we're not spreading the information as we should to the community at large, which is the issue. We need to talk to our youth, the high schoolers.
I totally agree.
Mhm.
Yo, I was just so say like what y'all are saying brings up a point I always make is like about perception of risk, and a lot of people just cannot see themselves in these situations. And I think it has a lot to do with how messaging kind of has been rolled out. I think a lot of communities have been forgotten, but in that same sense, you have very targeted, campaigns and ads, which I think has served its purpose. But at the same time, you can't forget that anything can happen to anybody in any circumstance. I feel like in my life, I have met almost sometimes more people who had no idea that they could possibly get HIV. They had no idea that they were at risk or a vulnerable
Mm-hmm.
population at all, and they got HIV. And so I think that as we continue to make sure that everyone is represented in branding, we have to make sure that our messaging can be reached by everybody. So we cannot
Mm-hmm.
just continue to say that, only gay or DL or men who have sex with men are the only people that need to hear this
If
message.
you lay down for sex, you are at risk.
Yeah, if you
That's
don't
it.
have sex, then it is. Yeah, it
If
is
you
what it is.
like sex,
Yeah,
you're having a risk. You're
yeah.
high
Exactly.
risk.
Everybody
That's
is
it. Like I
everybody is
don't.
in these categories.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Another community that we forget about is our transgender women.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, transgender men. I'm sorry,
Both,
And women. Yeah.
both.
and women. Yes, but I mean, I think they. I feel like they're more targeted. But transgender men,
That
just
trans
because you're
women
a
get
transgender man, don't
no
mean that you
love
may not
for
enjoy
sure.
sex with other men
Hmm.
Right.
or
Man.
with people or women. Like it's not. And that's something we have to work on and get in the message. Of course, like there's not a certain population that needs PrEP. If you have sex, if you enjoy condomless, barrierless, raw sex, then you need this little pill.
You're at risk. Yeah, you guys definitely like representate that whole representation piece is for sure. We need to do better at that and have commercials and pamphlets that have straight women, straight men. I think
Hmm.
they doing pretty good with trans women and MSM, but for sure, I know a lot of the women that I've worked with. Again, this goes back to that whole honesty piece, or you know, no, or with going to fairs and stuff, like trying to give out condoms to women. And women that I've worked with who became positive never thought they were at risk. Like, oh no, I don't need it. I'm married. Or no, I don't
No,
need it.
I
I'm in
mean,
a relationship. Okay,
and
like
who is your husband in
we
a relationship
and
with?
we just
That would
talked
be my next question.
and we just talked about how in relationships, you know, sometimes people are living with this internalized stigma, and it might be hard for them to be honest about their status. Or and it's not just HIV. We got so many other STIs out there, or you brought up the men in jail situation and men not being honest about having sex with men. Like that's something that's not being talked about. Their sexual preferences, not being able to be honest with their partners. And it's no, we're not shaming that or none of that. Like, we're just bringing up the topic. And that's why
Mhm.
I'm so glad we're all sitting in here having this conversation and bringing
Yeah.
light to the issue. And man, Harvey, thank you. Your the research you shared was right on point. And so, just in closing out this wonderful discussion that we just had, I want to give each of you guys um, some time to share, some last few words of encouragement or advice that you want to give to the people before we end scene. Drop the mic.
What I want to say, as we always say, you know, in the church especially, my people perish for the lack of knowledge.
Mhm.
And the reality is, so many black and brown people are perishing and don't even realize it because they lack the knowledge and understanding about HIV and AIDS. And so I like to encourage people to know the facts, to get tested, to get informed so that you can protect yourself and protect other people from acquiring HIV. we don't like to have the conversation about HIV and AIDS. This is not a popular topic, but it's necessary because just like COVID is a pandemic, HIV is still a pandemic in the United States of America. And the only way we're going to get to the end of this is that we're going to have to break stigma, and we're going to have to get tested and know that, hey, if we come together, work together, we can stop HIV together. And that's just the way it is.
Yes. Faith, what about you?
No, I agree with everything that she just said. I think that what I want to encourage people to do is not be afraid to be a change agent, not be afraid to talk about this type of stuff. Like Bree often says, she didn't even know about this stuff until she learned about it, and then now she's like this big warrior in our game, doing her thing. And so I think that when you hear the information, you got to share it, and don't think that these things don't apply to you. Even if you are someone who's single, doesn't have a partner, you may be someone who needs to be the messenger. If you're not having sex right now, you may have sex in the future. So take some time to learn about it. If you know somebody who could benefit, or you don't even know. I get in the Uber sometimes and they like, what do you do? And I'm the whole entire ride, 20 minutes. Now every single thing you need to know about HIV in 2022. So I think we just want everybody to like help us get the word out, because this does need to stop. People shouldn't have to continue to die from something like this. And I think that we want to make sure that everybody gets the education that they need. It's like, but all we can do is spread the word. We cannot rely on all the agencies and all the organizations that are working onto it to be the only way to get this out. Like we're ambassadors for a reason. We need more people to join our gang and to get the word out. So, that's what I'll say. Encourage everybody to learn something new with us and to just help us spread the message.
Harvey, what's your last words for the people?
Yeah, I just had a couple of very interesting and I think very insightful quotes that I found. So it's just about self-love and self-care, and not having knowledge is power. So even though it's up to us to prioritize our needs, it's our support networks and our support system that hold us accountable to practice self-care and self-love, which may be challenging for us to admit at times, and struggles against any type of social construct or any type of stigma, especially ones that come with the work that we do. For HIV, start with our relationships that are social and interpersonal with other people and who they are. But it also starts with us as individuals, with our relationship to our emotions and our bodies. And as Faith briefly mentioned, yes, organizations are catalysts for change, but it was people who created those organizations, and any one of us could be another catalyst for change. So again, knowledge is just extremely, extremely important, and it has insane value. And just spreading the word, spreading that awareness, and being just confident in yourself, your body, having that self-love, having that healthy relationships it'll not only enhance your life, but enhance the life of people around you and who you work for and who you help on your day-to-day basis.
That's right. What about you, Bree? What's your last words for the people?
Okay, so I just want to encourage everyone to advocate for themselves. If you do not feel comfortable, especially the women, and I speak to the women because I hear it so many times. If you do not feel comfortable being with someone without a condom, do not do it. Learn to love yourself that much that you put yourself first and not someone else's pleasure before yours. Get tested. There's nothing wrong for the ones that are not HIV positive, like myself. We need to do the work to end the stigma on our end and push people who are living with it and thriving with it forward. We're allies, and we need to stop being scared of saying things or having people like, well, maybe they have. That's nobody's business. We're here to end this together, but we have to walk beside each other. And Talk to the youth, and the youth, guys, you all need to, because y'all are just out here having all types of sex, and that's good. Enjoy your sex life, but get tested. Go to someone about PrEP. If you're gonna have your little Tinder dates, make sure you all know what your status is. And you could black this part out. So as much as we're talking about wearing the face mask, wear the dick mask. The dick mask saves lives too.
No,
Put
we not
that
talking
on.
that
Put that on. And that's it. And just, speak up for yourself.
Yes. And so I'll end it with, I guess my last words for the people will be to never let a disease define you. I guess that's for people who are living with HIV or with anything. You know, uh, don't let the fear. All this stuff is is programmed into us. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not always what it seems. Everybody experiences different health issues differently. Everyone's immune system is different. Just because you contract HIV or COVID or whatever, any kind of STI, doesn't mean that it's the end of the world. You gonna die. It's gonna be like what they told you was gonna be. Whatever, whatever the case, there's treatment for all these different things. You equals you. Um, get tested. Have these conversations. Like, don't be afraid to be authentically who you are in in life, but in your relationships, have these conversations that are not being had, like, um, and understand that, even if somebody is telling you, you know, one thing, like, that you still have to go get tested because people are out here not being honest and living with internalized stigma. You know what I'm saying? Rejection happens to us all, I think. But even if you are positive, if you become positive, if you contract HIV, um, not only is it not the end of the world, but you can find a partner that will love you regardless to your status, and you're deserving of love. You can still be in a healthy, normal relationship. um, and so that's kind of what I want to end with. Thank you guys, thank you guys, thank you
Thank
guys, thank
you.
you
Thank
guys.
you
Thank
so
you,
much.
guys. I appreciate you all. I appreciate the work that you all do. You are all dope women. I just appreciate you all so much.
Six is the best mix, y'all. Bye, everybody.
Bye.